We're in the final step in a UX research study, where you get to share and promote the insights from your research. You might be wondering, how do I share my research insights with stakeholders? That's exactly what we'll cover in this video, which is about 2 different formats you can use to share your insights. So let's get to it. One of the most common formats that UX researchers and designers use to share their work is presentations. A presentation is a group of slides where each slide has new information. Presentations provide your stakeholders with a high-level overview of the project. For example, your presentation might only share the top 3 to 5 insights from your usability study to keep stakeholders engaged. Presentations can be used to share your insights with a big group of people, and that group of people might include stakeholders who are not in the field of UX. Presentations can be made pretty quickly using tools like Google Slides, Microsoft PowerPoint, or Apple's Keynote. Keep in mind, people might use the term deck instead of presentation, but the 2 words mean the same thing. Here's an example of how a UX research presentation might be built. The presentation consists of 15 to 20 slides broken up into 4 sections: study details, themes, insights, and recommendations, and an appendix. Another format you can use to share your research insights is a research report. A research report is a document with fewer visuals containing the same information as the presentation. A research report can be made using tools like Google Docs, Microsoft Word, or Apple's Pages. Research reports will often place the summary of the research insights and recommendations before the detailed insights. This allows stakeholders to quickly read the actionable information. And there you have it. You now know 2 common formats to share your research insights: presentations and research reports. I bet you're excited to create your own. Next up, we'll go through how to create a strong presentation. We just discussed 2 popular formats to share your research insights: presentations and research reports. Now we're going to dig into one of those formats, presentations, and learn how to present insights in an engaging way. Let's start by opening up the presentation template. On the first slide, I'm going to update the title, date, and team. I'll title the presentation Dog Walking App Usability Study. The title can be simple and straightforward. I'll also add the date of the presentation. In this case, it's December 2020, and I'll fill in the names of all of my team members who worked on the usability study with me. Now I'll move to the next slide, which is the table of contents. This is an easy one. This slide already has the right names for sections of the presentation, so there's no need for me to make any updates. Up next, we've made it to the study details section. Notice that each section in the presentation has a title slide like this that has a different color background, limited text, and large font. I'm going to open up my research plan so I can refer back to it as I fill out the details in this section. Alright, now that I've got my research plan pulled up, let's take a look at the first slide in this section, the project background. The project background explains what led you to conduct this research, including why the insights were needed and what impact they will have on decisions being made. For our project background, I'll write, we're creating a new app to help people find and schedule dog walkers. We need to find out if the main user experience, finding and scheduling a dog walker, is easy for users to complete. Next up, study details. I'm going to refer to my research plan again to complete this slide quickly. I'll start by updating the first column with our 2 research questions. How long does it take a user to find and book a dog walker in the app? And what can we learn from the user flow or the steps that users take to book a dog walker? We only have 2 research questions, so I'm going to delete the optional headers. Next, I'll update the second column with the number of participants and a short overview of their characteristics. I'll put 5 participants and list their characteristics as 2 males, 2 females, and 1 non-binary individual between the ages of 20 to 60. Now I'll find the third column with the methodology. I'll list each participant's session as 10 minutes in length. For location, I'll write United States. Remote, because each participant went through the usability study in their own home. The format is an unmoderated usability study. Finally, I'll provide a high-level overview of the procedure. I'll type, users were asked to perform tasks in a low-fidelity prototype. Okay, onto the prototype or design mock. On this slide, we need to add a screenshot of the product or feature that we asked participants to provide feedback about. So I'm going to add a screenshot of our dog walking app prototype. Alright, we've made it to the themes section. This is where we share some of the themes from the synthesis of our data. Each theme has its own slide. The theme is listed at the top as the header, and evidence to support the theme is provided in bullets below. I'm going to put our first theme as the header, which is, most participants want to book a dog walker on a regular basis. Next, I'll add some data as supporting evidence. For the first bullet, I'll type, 4 of the 5 participants want to be able to book a dog walker repeatedly. For the second bullet, I'll add, not all participants who wanted to book a dog walker on a regular basis expressed the same level of frustration. For this particular theme, I don't have a third point to add as evidence, so I'll delete one bullet. I can also remove the placeholder text in the first line. Then I'll add a quote from a participant that supports the theme. A quote helps bring the theme to life in the words of someone who's experiencing the product firsthand. I had taken notes about an important quote from participant A who said, I also would have liked a way to book a dog walker every Saturday morning. It seems like you can only book one appointment at a time for this. That's kind of annoying too. This quote shows that participant A would book a dog walker regularly if given the opportunity. Finally, I'll add a screenshot of the low-fidelity prototype that highlights the issues participants had with this task. In the real world, you would add more than one theme. This slide shows how we could add theme number 2. For our example, I'll skip this, but hopefully you have a good feeling for how to fill this in. Okay, we've made it to the third section, which is a summary of our insights and recommendations. Let's fill out the first slide in this section, Research Insights. It's helpful to prioritize your research insights from the most urgent to the least urgent. You'll likely do this prioritization with project stakeholders like a fellow designer, the product manager, or an engineering lead. There are a few insights that should be considered a priority 0 or P0, which means they must be fixed for your product to work. For example, were there any parts of the design that prevented the user from completing the main user flow? Imagine if users weren't able to book a dog walker in our dog walking app. That's definitely something we'd want to fix and would be considered a P0 issue. Or were there parts of your design where users felt tricked? This might indicate a deceptive pattern. Think about the participants in our dog walking app usability study who were frustrated or surprised that there wasn't a confirmation page before they were charged. Not including a confirmation page might seem like a sneaky way to take money from users, which is not our intent and is something we want to avoid. Finally, were there any parts of your design that were inequitable or inaccessible? Users of all abilities, identities, and experiences need to be able to successfully move through your product's design. These are P0s to address too. After you identify your P0 insights, you'll likely have a lot of insights left to take action on. These insights can be categorized into buckets based on their priority. In addition to priority 0, you might have buckets called priority 1 and priority 2. Let's think about an example of an insight that might be categorized as priority 1. During the usability study on the dog walking app, many participants said they wanted to be able to make a recurring appointment with a dog walker. Since participants shared this pain point, you could consider it as priority 1 or P1. One reason you might not consider it as a priority 0 is that even without the recurring appointment feature, the user can still complete the main flow in the app. You could reason that the extra ability to make a recurring appointment with a dog walker would improve the user experience, and therefore could be considered a P1 to include in a future prototype to be tested. If your team ends up with lots of priority 1 insights, you may choose to further categorize these insights by adding another bucket called priority 2. For example, you and your team might review a list of 10 insights that you initially categorized as priority 1 and identify which of those insights to address this month, which would stay as priority 1, versus next month, which would become priority 2. This additional ranking enables smaller teams to divide up the work and focus on the most important design changes first. I'll show you how to add in one insight as an example. Inside the circle, I'll type, unable to make recurring booking. For the brief description, I'll add, in general, users want to book a dog walker on a scheduled basis instead of making a one-time reservation. When you create your presentation, you should fill out all of the circles here with each of your insights. You will often have 3 to 5 strong insights, so we have spaces for 4 insights in this template. Next, we need to provide some recommendations to our stakeholders. Recommendations are actions we think the stakeholders should take based on our study. For now, I'll just write one recommendation, but normally you would have at least 3. Based on the insight we shared in the last slide, my recommendation would be make it possible to book a dog walker on a recurring basis. And that's a wrap. It's always nice to end with a thank you slide. It's also common to include an appendix after the end of the presentation. This is where you can add slides with extra data on topics your audience might have more detailed questions on. For example, a detailed list of participants and their characteristics. However, you would not show these slides or talk about them as part of your presentation. Wow, just like that, you have a presentation that showcases all of the hard work you put into a research study. It feels pretty good to see your insights come to life in a concrete way, doesn't it? One more thing. Remember that you can share this same information in a document format instead of a presentation. If you want to create a research report, the template document has the same sections and headers that we just walked through. So you can fill in the same information in the same way, just in a different format. Next up, we'll talk about how to deliver a presentation and let your insights shine. Your research insights are now ready to share in a beautiful presentation format. The only thing left to do is deliver the presentation. Have you ever come across a video or speech that you just couldn't pull yourself away from? A good presentation can feel magnetic, and you're hooked. You may feel like some people have this natural, almost magical ability to give engaging presentations. But believe it or not, presenting is not something that people are just suddenly good at. In fact, if you examine the content and the person's delivery closely, there are several things that great presenters do that you can start doing too. That's what we'll cover in this video. We'll focus on presentation skills so you can successfully deliver your own research insights. Before we jump in, let's address the elephant in the room. You might be scared of public speaking. That's completely normal. The best thing about presenting is that you can learn and practice. Even if you don't have any experience in public speaking, if you put in the time to practice, I know that you will succeed. Okay, so how can you become one of those magnetic, engaging, captivating presenters? First, be concise. Don't ramble into long stories or share unimportant details. Stick to the main points that you need the audience to remember. Second, keep your tone conversational, like you're chatting with a friend or colleague. You don't want to sound robotic or like you're reading from a script. Third, great presenters use stories to keep the audience engaged. Use relatable and specific examples to illustrate points. Think back to the story we shared about Google Maps improving the product for motorcycle and scooter drivers. Chances are that story stuck in your mind after you walked away from the video because it was engaging. Fourth, the best presenters master the art of the pause. When we're feeling nervous, we tend to want to fill pauses in conversation. You can probably think of a time when you've experienced awkward silence, but allowing natural pauses in conversation actually displays confidence. Give it a try next time you're having a conversation with a friend. Try leaving a little more of a pause. Notice how the pause sounds and feels before you respond. Finally, compelling presenters make eye contact. If possible, try to make individual eye contact with different people in the audience throughout your presentation. You make eye contact when speaking to your friend one-on-one, so why not do it when you're speaking to a larger group? This might feel a little strange at first, but it'll come more naturally the more you do it. Okay, now you know how to deliver a stellar presentation and share your research insights with the world. Try using a couple of these tips next time you give a presentation. You'll get better and better each time you present, so start practicing. You're going to do great. You've made it through all 4 steps of the UX research study process. Plan the study, where you learned about the 7 elements of a research plan. Conduct the research, where you dug into usability studies. Synthesize the results, where you turned observations from your research into actionable insights. And share the research insights, where you learned how to create a presentation and deliver that presentation like a star. You should feel accomplished and proud of the progress you've made so far. We've covered a lot of ground. Now that you have your research findings, you'll use the insights to iterate on and improve your prototype. It's time to apply all of the hard work you've done to better your designs. Now you have a presentation or report filled with insights from your research. You've also shared those insights with stakeholders and agreed on the ones to take action on. The next step is to improve your designs based on what you've learned. That means using your research insights to revise your designs. So why do we do this? Conducting research, like a usability study, helps us identify the pain points that participants experience with different prototypes. Each time we learn about a pain point, there's an opportunity to update the design and make the experience better for users. That way, the issues can be fixed before the final product launches. Participants might have identified a lot of pain points during the usability study. As you might remember, to make the analysis easier, we found themes in the data and turned those themes into insights. So how do you know which insights to use to update your design? It's helpful to prioritize your research insights from the most urgent to the least urgent. You'll likely do this prioritization with project stakeholders like a fellow designer, the product manager, or an engineering lead. There are a few insights that should be considered a priority 0 or P0, which means they must be fixed for your product to work. For example, were there any parts of the design that prevented the user from completing the main user flow? Or were there parts of your design where users felt tricked? This might indicate a deceptive pattern. Finally, were there any parts of your design that were inequitable or inaccessible? Users of all abilities, identities, and experiences need to be able to successfully move through your product's design. These are P0s to address too. After you identify your P0 insights, you'll likely have a lot of insights left to take action on. These insights can be categorized into buckets based on their priority. In addition to priority 0, you might have buckets called priority 1 and priority 2. This additional ranking enables smaller teams to divide up the work and focus on the most important design changes first. All right, so you've prioritized the pain points that were highlighted by participants during your research. You might still have questions. Keep in mind that the findings from our small usability study were limited, since we were only able to get perspectives from 5 participants. In the real world, many UX researchers want to have 5 to 8 participants. As you learned in an earlier reading, the reason studies are often capped at 8 participants is that research shows there's often diminishing return on investment if additional participants are added to the study. Your ability to do more research will depend on your team, your company, your project timeline, and your project budget. Like we've discussed before, UX design is a really iterative process. Very often, prioritizing and advocating for user needs becomes the responsibility of the UX researcher and designer. This is especially important when it comes to better understanding the needs of groups that have been historically underrepresented in user studies. We'll create prototypes, learn from research, and iterate on our designs many times, and it's important that we make the efforts to reach out to user groups whose experiences and needs are often not considered in design. This entire process of researching, synthesizing, and then iterating based on that research is a loop, not a line. That means the cycle is often repeated many times. For the purposes of this course, we've been taking you through a more linear process, but in reality, the design process rarely plays out like that. Next up, let's get back to our project in Figma. We'll modify our low-fidelity designs based on insights from a usability study. We just discussed how you'd prioritize the insights from a usability study, which determines how to iterate on your low-fidelity designs. Now it's time to actually make changes to your designs in Figma based on those insights. First, let me clarify something that's a little tricky. We're going to make changes to our wireframes at this stage, not our low-fidelity prototype. Why? Well, think of an author writing a book. The writer doesn't update the binding of the book each time they edit a few words. Instead, the writer edits the words on the page, and once all the edits are complete, the pages are renumbered and bound into a book. It's similar for designers. Wireframes are turned into a low-fidelity prototype through connections. In the same way, pages are turned into a book through binding. All right, so let's jump into Figma and make changes to our wireframes. While you were away, I had a few discussions with stakeholders about our research insights, and we aligned on 3 changes to make to the Dog Walker app wireframes. As a reminder, here are the low-fidelity designs for our Dog Walker app before the usability study. There are 3 insights from our research that we'll focus on as I iterate on the wireframes. First, I'll make it possible to book a dog walker on a recurring basis. Then I'll make it easier to pick a date when scheduling a dog walker. And third, I'll add a confirmation page before the Book a Dog Walker page. Let's start with insight number 1. Make it possible to schedule a dog walker on a recurring basis. Almost every participant in the study said that they wanted the option to book a dog walker on a scheduled or recurring basis. To make it possible for users to do this, I've added a checkbox below the date and time boxes labeled Recurring Booking. If the user checks the box, their booking will repeat on the same day and at the same time every week. Next, let's examine the second insight we want to address from our research. Participants in the usability study said they'd like an easier way to choose dates when scheduling a dog walker. In the first iteration of the wireframe, which I've pulled up here on the left, users needed to specify the exact day and time in an open text box. For example, they would have to type in May 2nd. Based on the participant feedback, we decided to iterate on the design and include a list of dates and times users can scroll through. We also added the ability for users to indicate how long they want the walk to be. You can check out this new iteration on the right side of the screen. Finally, let's think about the third insight that will inform how we iterate on our designs. We learned from users that they wanted a confirmation page before booking the dog walker. To fix this, I need to add a new confirmation page to our wireframes. This will be an additional screen that doesn't currently exist. Notice that I went ahead and created a new screen for our wireframes called Confirm Booking. This page is displayed before users complete the checkout process. Now users will have an additional page before booking, just like our study participants requested. Wonderful. We've now iterated on our wireframes based on insights that were uncovered during our usability study. If I needed to conduct more research or have a prototype to show stakeholders, my next step would be to reconnect the wires to turn the designs back into a low-fidelity prototype.
Congratulations on finishing this course from the Google UX Design Certificate. You can access the full experience, including job search help, and start to earn your certificate by clicking on the icon or the link in the description below. Watch the next video in the course by clicking here, and subscribe to our channel for more from upcoming Google Career Certificates.